So although the A's lost the 1988 World Series, it was a pretty iconic one in their history, mainly because of Kirk Gibson's home run. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting World Series in 1988. The Athletics played the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the A's, they put a pretty good team together in that era. Of course, they would win the following year against the Giants in '89, but '88 they unfortunately lost, and the Dodgers beat them 4-1. In what was a pretty exciting World Series. The MVP of the 1988 World Series was Orel Hershiser, and he was a very dominant pitcher in this series. He had 2 wins in this series. He pitched 18 innings, and he had a 1.0 ERA, which was exceptional. And I think this series is best known for the Kirk Gibson Game 1 walk-off home run off Dennis Eckersley, but I think this series also had a lot of other interesting moments. So let's get into this World Series. 1988, the Dodgers beat the A's 4-1. So in Game 1, of course, as I mentioned, the most iconic part was the home run by, of course, Kirk Gibson. Gibson had obviously been injured a lot. He had some awkward slides in the bases, and so, it wasn't expected. And although it was against my team and it was against a very dominant pitcher in Dennis Eckersley, it was an iconic home run. Seeing him trot, around the bases like that, just, even in the present day, it's something that's very powerful because it shows that, you can't ever count a guy out. And I think Gibson proved that with that Game 1 heroic home run. In this game, the powerful hitting Jose Canseco had a grand slam. And the A's, they looked pretty good in this game from the beginning on. But, of course, we all know what would have happened. And it was the only time in World Series history that the grand slam hitting team failed to win the game. So, that's sort of an interesting point. The A's, they were close, but they lost 5-4. And it's interesting because the winning run scored with 2 outs, and it was just very unlikely that Kirk Gibson would have done that, but, he did, and that's why history is what it is today. So that's Game 1. The Dodgers won 5-4 in LA. Now in Game 2, the Dodgers shut out the A's, in which was a very dominant pitching performance from Orel Hershiser. He went, in very good performance in this one, just looking at the statistics. He was, the complete pitcher. He pitched all 9 innings, only allowing 3 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, and, of course, no run in the game. So that was, really good for Hershiser. The A's, in this game couldn't get their hits going. They only had hits from a couple different players. Actually, only one player got a hit in this game for the A's, and that was Dave Parker. He had all 3 hits in this game. So, and he figured out Hershiser, but the rest of the team didn't. And the Dodgers scored 6 runs, and 5 of those 6 runs were in the 3rd inning. So the Dodgers were really on top of it. And Mike Marshall had a really good game in this one. And, so the A's just couldn't figure it out in this one. And also, Orel Hershiser, he could pitch, and he also got a hit in this game. So, he was very much dominant. The Athletics had Storm Davis on the mound. He really struggled in this one, and they lost, and they were suddenly down this 2-0 hole. In this season, the A's actually had a better record than the Dodgers. It was 104. They were 104-58 in their record, and the Dodgers were 94-67. So that was interesting. But of course, home field advantage didn't work the way it does now. So it wasn't based on record. So the Dodgers had the first 2 games at home. Now in Game 3, this was the only game the A's won. It was in Oakland as well. The rest of the series was pretty close in terms of games. This game was 2-1. The Athletics won. They were actually out hit in this game. Rick Honeycutt got the win for the Athletics, and they actually walked it off in the 9th inning. And so that was pretty interesting to see. That was a really, hopefully, for the A's, they thought hopefully, it was a turning point in the series, but it wasn't. It was very much a good finish for the A's in this game. But yeah, Mark McGwire did good. He had a home run in this game, and the A's, just finished it off. And they had a good pitching performance. Bob Welch was the starting pitcher. He had 8 strikeouts. But Rick Honeycutt got the save and got the game done. So that's how it finished. So the A's won their only game of this World Series was 2-1 victory in Game 3. Now in Game 4, the Dodgers won a close game in Oakland. It was 4-3 final score. This game, a couple runs early on, and then a lot of runs in the middle frames. So Tim Belcher got winning pitcher. Dave Stewart lost this game. Of course, we all know Dave Stewart is a dominant pitcher in the 80s and 90s for the A's. In this one, the A's, they just couldn't really. It was sort of similar to the last game, where their scoring was sort of dormant until the later innings, but they couldn't capitalize at the end to finish this one, and they lost 4-3. It was a pretty equally matched game. For the Dodgers, they had a pretty good pitching performance once again. Eckersley, he pitched a little bit as well. I can imagine that his morale had changed a little bit after the Kirk Gibson moment, but that's just how it was. The Dodgers had a good game overall, so that's how it was, and they won this one, so that's how it happened. And then in Game 5, the Dodgers clinched the World Series over the A's to win the 1988 World Series with a 5-2 victory in Oakland. In this one, the Dodgers had an early scoring attack. Orel Hershiser on the mound, and he was really, really good in this game, of course. He won this one, and he went the full game once again. I mean, just iconic, pitching, outcome for him. He was 9 innings, 4 hits allowed, only 2 earned runs, 1.05 ERA in the game. Storm Davis for the Athletics, he was the losing pitcher despite having a pretty good series. But that's just kind of how it went. The A's, they just couldn't get it done. Their scoring really didn't wake up this series, I feel like, and they had such a good record, 104-58. They had plenty of Hall of Fame type players in this game, and so pretty interesting series. I mean, of course, it was iconic in the baseball world. The A's were outscored in this series 21-11, so it just goes to show that the Dodgers kind of figured them out pitching wise, and so that's just how it went. And fortunately for the A's, they would win in 1989, but I could imagine that losing to the Dodgers like this was, sort of heartbreaking, just considering how good they were this season. But that's going to do it. A's lose the 1988 World Series to the Dodgers 4-1, and their next World Series loss and their final, most recent World Series loss was 1990. So we'll talk about that next. And so let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys later. And go A's.